Hi, we're Team SafePlate. We built SafePlate because we kept seeing people around us really struggle to find food options that respect their dietary needs. Whether it's like allergies, religious restrictions, or personal choices like vegan or vegetarian diets, eating out can really feel stressful and confusing and sometimes even unsafe. So pretty quickly, we realized that this isn't a very niche issue at all. Tons of people on campus deal with this all the time. Between all of us, we had friends, families, and classmates who have all had personal experiences double checking menus, worrying about cross-contamination, or trying to figure out like whether a restaurant could accommodate them or not. So as a team of CS majors, we decided to each come in with different strengths and contribute in our own ways. Some of us really liked front end and focused on building a clean, simple UI so users can get their answers quickly. Others enjoyed back-end work and handled filtering logic, restaurant data, API requests, and performance. Our full stack people pulled everything together, so the whole experience feels smooth end to end. SafePlate helps users quickly identify restaurants that meet their needs, whether they need gluten-free, halal, kosher, vegan, dairy-free, or anything else. Today, we'll walk you through some of our user personas, the final user experience, the technical implementation, and a few of the challenges we worked through along the way.
More about our target audience and how we have designed our website to fulfill our target audience's needs. Let's first go over our target audience, which is individuals with severe food allergies, people who observe religious food restrictions, such as Jain, vegetarian, halal, kosher, and restaurants that have options for individuals with dietary restrictions that want to promote their options. Additionally, we also support parents who want to take their kids out who might have severe food allergies, and also event coordinators who might want to be safe with the food options they provide. Here's an example persona of one of our possible users. Um, she has a severe tree nut allergy, and you can see that she likes to eat out a few times a week, but is cautious because she's not sure about how she's not confident in the nut free options that some restaurants provide. And our goal, after talking to some of our friends that have also some of these experiences and allergies, is to make finding restaurants that cater to these people with allergies to be as easy and straightforward as possible. So to do that, we have decided to our make our interface to be a website. This allows any user to just open a SafePlay on a browser, on a phone or laptop, and it doesn't require like any installation. So this is great for like anybody to quickly search up if their restaurant is safe for their restrictions. We also have a prominent search bar on the homepage, and that will help narrow down the desired restaurants. We have a pretty comprehensive filter system that has many dietary badges and is designed for stack needs so you can have multiple dietary restrictions. And our restaurants that appear in the search will only match these selected restrictions. And our goal is just to present reliable information all in one place. Our restaurant cards are very comprehensive. They show the dietary options, their certifications, and also dietary risk levels, such as possible risk contamination. And this goal is to reduce anxiety in scrolling and increase confidence. So here you can see just a quick example before we hop into the product demo. You can see here we have a prominent search bar at the beginning of our homepage, and you also can see the filter here. You can click on these badges and you can filter by dietary needs, and under that you can see one of our restaurant cards. You can see the price, the rating, the location, but most importantly, you can see the dietary options, the certifications, and also the cross contamination risks.
Yeah, so let's move on to the demo portion of this project. So this is our finished product, and I would love to walk it through from the perspective of one of our target users. So let's say I'm a user that's vegetarian and also gluten free, and I wanted to come to SafeBite to find like affordable, healthy, and safe, obviously, options for me to eat out. And so the first thing that I would do here, just like overarchingly, there's a search bar, there's like a lot of filters. I could also scroll through here and just a lot of the options, which is really awesome. Um, might require a little bit of more time, but I think the scroll feature, shows all of the options. And something else that's really cool is there's also kind of a tag here that really shows how safe this is in terms of their dietary restrictive practices, like in terms of cross contamination, certifications, things like that. And so I can immediately see which restaurants are going to be a little bit safer than others. The ones that are a little bit less safe are labeled caution, and some of them are labeled high risk, for example, Monty. Um, and so let's take a look. So let's say I didn't want to scroll through all of these. Instead, I wanted to search or filter. So I'm going to filter by, let's say I'm vegetarian and also gluten free. So if I filter by that, I can see there's a lot of options for me. And so I definitely want to take a look at some of the options. So I might look at the safe options first, just because I'm pretty severely gluten free. So just want to make sure that everything is pretty safe. So if I actually go over here, I can like see the cuisine. I can also see the rating and the address, things like that. These tags are awesome. It's vegetarian and gluten free. And I can also see the certifications and cross contamination risk, which I think is really interesting. Um, I also hear there's some similar restaurants that are recommended. So if I'm not really feeling Mediterranean, or sorry, if I am feeling Mediterranean, or maybe I want to try a different cuisine, maybe I want to try Indian, there's some restaurants that are recommended based on that. And if I could go to that, we can take a look at, maybe one more. Let's take a look at Jane Pure Veg. This is also same. One thing I might be cautious about, this doesn't have the gluten-free tag. So yeah, this is kind of how I would go through the website. Other features about our website, also the search bar. So let's say like I've heard of some restaurants right now where I've heard a lot about no ties. So if I search that up, I could actually take a look at this. And I can take a look at the tags. Unfortunately, this is high risk and is not gluten-free, which is really sad for my cause, but really still looks like a great option. So these are most of the features of our app. And yeah.
Details of SafePlate. It is basically just your standard web app. It's a React single page app that communicates with our backend through what we've implemented as a REST API, which is what ultimately reads and writes information to our database. On the front end, we've implemented React with TypeScript for a type-safe UI. React routers, what we used to be able to navigate through our website. And we use Tailwind for styling purposes, as well as libraries such as Lucid Icons for, implementing the proper visual cues, and for dietary tags and ratings, abiding by proper design principles. On our backend, we used a REST API through Node and a Fast API, a combination of that to implement our API endpoints. The database is what we've implemented to store our restaurant details, such as dietary categories, certifications, and cross-contamination risks. The front end would actually never have to hard code information. Basically, all communication is coming from the information they're receiving from our server. Now going into the data flow of our application, when a user updates search or dietary filters and sends it over to our backend API endpoint, which basically validates the requests, applies the proper filters, and sends over a request to our database. Once our database receives that request, it finds the restaurants that are most closely related to the user's request and sends that over to the client, which basically is what updates the client's UI to show them the restaurants that are closest to their query. Now, our data model is we've used something that is shared between the front end and the back end. So in our front end, we have built out a restaurant interface that shows out what information is valid and relevant to each individual restaurant. But on the back end, we hold a lot more specific details, which is what we've used to sort of figure out which restaurants are going to be better, especially for when calculating which ones are going to be higher relevant to a search query versus another one. And yeah, that's basically just a little bit of insight into what our technical stuff
looks like.
Like any project, SafePlate definitely came with its own sets of challenges, and each one pushed us to refine both our design and our technical decisions. One of our biggest early challenges was making filtering actually work the way users expect. Once we started testing with real sample data, we kept finding edge cases. Restaurants that only matched some tags still slipped through, badges misaligned between the card and the detail page, and our logic wasn't strict enough. Fixing this forced us to rethink how we structured our restaurant model and to rewrite parts of our filtering pipeline so it was predictable and trustworthy. Another challenge was data persistence. Early on, we realized that our prototype behaved perfectly as long as the user never reloaded the page, but as soon as they navigated away, every preference reset. That's when we noticed that several pieces of data weren't being stored anywhere real. They were living in temporary client-side state. That shaped our decision to move towards an actual backend with stable storage and to introduce more explicit rules around what needs to persist session to session. We also hit challenges around communicating safety clearly. Users told us they needed confidence, not just convenience, so we played with different badge designs and risk categories. What we thought was intuitive didn't always read the same way for users with allergies or religious dietary rules, which pushed us to simplify and standardize our icons, color system, and risk levels. Due to the nature of the project and therefore how reliable it must be, it put a lot more pressure on us to get these features locked. Looking forward, there are a few important next steps we're excited about. First, moving from mock data to a live backend, whether that's with Firebase or another service, so user preferences, reviews, and risk reports actually persist and sync across devices. Second, moving to a system that's more community driven so users can get community verified information with moderation. We also want to continue usability testing with the different user groups we identified earlier to validate whether our design really reduces the anxiety and guesswork they experience today. And lastly, we'd also love to build a dedicated restaurant portal where owners can submit verified certifications like halal, kosher, gluten-free kitchen and update their preparation practices directly. This would help ensure that the information users see is not only accurate but comes straight from the source. Overall, we are really proud of how far SafePlate has grown this semester. Each challenge helped us build a system that's actually aligned with the needs of people who depend on accurate dietary information, and that's a direction we want to keep pushing as we move beyond the class.